Hi there, welcome back to my channel. This is episode 7 of the Design With Me series. And over the last couple of weeks, we have taken a pattern from concept all the way to publishing, and it's been kind of a wild ride. I had a lot of fun actually documenting the process and so much fun making Farrin. But now it's time to wind things down and talk about how the actual pattern release went. Now, after finishing all of the listings and the graphics and all of that, it is time to actually start to market the pattern. And ideally, you want to start talking about your pattern release about 2 weeks before the launch. However, this is kind of a special case because I've essentially been talking about Farrin for about 7 or 8 weeks now. Either way, it's important to get your design out there to wherever you have an audience, whether that's various social media platforms or a newsletter, any kind of mailing lists, things like that. So for example, with my newsletter, I ended up sending sneak peeks of Farrin a couple weeks over, just sneak peek here, sneak peek there, leading up to the launch. And then also the week of the launch, I posted several reels going over the different perks of the patterns. I posted in my Facebook group a couple of times, and I scheduled several pins on Pinterest to go through. So just all sorts of different ways that people are going to be able to see your pattern, where they can find it. I also meant to post in Facebook groups, like public ones, but to be honest, I forgot. And the issue with Facebook groups that you don't run is that a lot of them have very specific rules about self-promotion. For example, you can only post on certain days or certain times with certain hashtags, and it can be a little bit difficult to keep track of all of that. So if I can, I do post there, but I haven't seen a huge return from posting in groups. It depends on the pattern. It worked really well for Anton the Armadillo, but not so much for my pangolin pattern. I've noticed simpler ones tend to get more traction in Facebook groups, but this is a whole trial and error type thing. So it's one of those, you just have to try different things, and whatever works for you works for you. So without further ado, let's talk about how many sales I actually made on launch day. And the answer might surprise you. I made 9 sales. And if that seems like a low number, I mean, it's actually not bad. And I'm going to go over why that is. I ended up making 3 sales on Etsy, 5 on Ravelry, and 1 on Ko-fi. Sorry, that was my dog Peanut. Anyway, so let's take a look at Etsy. So we can see the stats right here. I sold 3 items, a revenue of $20.80. And then actually, if you scroll down on the dashboard, it'll show you how many visits you've had that day. Plus, you can see how people found your listing on Etsy. It'll actually show you the sources. So my biggest one was mostly from the Etsy app directly, and then direct traffic. So that's when I sent people directly from a link to Etsy. And so that doesn't exactly show you where those links came from, but that's where we can look down here below. You see, for social media, I only got visits from Instagram, none of the other platforms. And in search terms, you can see how many people search for certain things. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing your tags on your Etsy listings. I use a site called eRank to search for different keywords to help improve the SEO on your listings. I'm not an expert in this. Like I said, a lot of this is just trial and error. For Ravelry, this $40 is the 5 sales that I made over on this platform. Unfortunately, there's not really a way to see where your traffic is coming from Ravelry, but I can take an educated guess based on the traffic from my Pinterest pins, my blog, and some other sources. So I'll get into that in a little bit. Lastly, from Ko-fi, I did have 1 sale, and I can almost bet that this one came from my newsletter because Ko-fi has a very specific link when you do discounts. It's not like a coupon code, and that link was the most readily accessible in my newsletter, so I'm pretty sure that's where that one came from. Now, this is the back end of my blog, and on launch day, I did get more visits to my website because Farrin was available for free. Now, it's important to remember that since there is a free version available, I actually wasn't expecting a huge number of sales because for the most part, people will go check out the free version first. And it did actually make my top 10 on my most viewed pages, so that was exciting. And if I scroll back up, you can see that Pinterest is my #1 referral. So I do a lot of Pinterest pins,
to my blog, and that's something that just works for me. And the paid patterns are linked in that same blog post, so everything's sort of connected and leads to each other.
So overall, whenever I do a free version of a pattern, I tend to get less sales on launch day, but 9 sales is still pretty good for a single day. And the great thing about patterns is that they're there for a long time and you can make sales on them years and years after the fact. In fact, my top selling pattern is Anton the Armadillo. And when I first published it back in 2020, I had no sales at all. And now it's my best selling pattern. I sell at least 20 a month now. Um, and that's putting it mildly. So the great thing about doing your patterns is even if your launch doesn't go amazingly well, you have other opportunities in the future to change up your SEO, to change up your graphics, your videos, to promote it. You can even rework the patterns like I'm doing in some of my other ones and update them, kind of trial and error to figure out what people like, what maybe is working with a pattern, what's not working with it. For example, my Addie the Oxalotl pattern got 0 sales on launch day. In fact, I don't know if I think I've sold 1 in the entire time it's been live. And I think that's because I was jumping on the axolotl trend and not trying to do something that was unique to me and what I wanted to do. So I don't have all the answers, but I've just noticed that when I focus on projects that I really love and care about, and I want to put my own personal unique spin on it rather than chasing trends, my projects tend to do a little bit better. So yeah, that's how it went. And hopefully there'll be more sales with Farrin in the future, but I think either way, he's such a fun project. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe so you never miss another video. And I'll see y'all next time. Have a great day. Bye.